Hey guys, so this is another video. Let's talk about the top BT phase DPS units in Echo Era. But before we go directly into it, there's a few disclaimer. Some DPS FR is actually pretty bad and you wouldn't use it as main FR. Some has 50% HP damage limit up that boosts their overall damage, but some don't. So considering two of the factor above, the total damage output hence based on players' execution depending on how you optimize your FR phase. Like if you can get it up to 999 HP damage bonus before you enter a BT phase. So that really does affect the total damage output. So in this video, I kind of like assume that everyone is without HP damage bonus. So the damage that I present here is assuming there is no HP damage bonus, but I do take into account the HP damage limit from the FR. Or in another word, this is assumed that if you enter the BT phase at 999%, then everyone will be doing maximum damage. Alright, so just be aware of that. Some characters I left out, such as Van. That's because when I added up all his damage, he doesn't hit 30 million total damage, and that is kind of below generally most of the character that we will be getting. So some of the character is not there, and there are also characters that are often units such as Rubicante, Core, which they excel very much in often strategy or used as a often attacker, so you probably will never ever enter their BT phase, so I left those people out as well. So the list that I will be presenting is based on maximum FR HP damage limit up, which is 50%, and all characters uses Rain Call, right, for launch, because that boosts and provide the BT phase additional damage, as I have mentioned in another video which I just posted yesterday. And whatever it is, this list is just for fun. Don't just look into the list and to decide what you should pull for, because I will not be discussing much about utility and team building, but that is actually a more important aspect of the DFFOO. Now, this is the Excel sheet that I developed, and pretty much the calculation is based on UW, Ultimate Weapon, High Armor, all maxed out, considering 2 allies, and each total up, they are giving the main unit 80% HP damage limit up, and of course based on the character's own BT phase and how much HP damage limit up that they get, and also the ability that they use, which means they have to be Force Enhanced to level 30 in order to get additional HP damage limit up from their ability. Then I also included the FR HP damage limit on the right side. So adding all of this up, this is also assume that we are fighting against 2 enemies. The reason why I'm using 2 enemies and as a benchmark, because most of the fight features 2 enemies instead of 1 or 3. Then here I calculate the total damage, and there is for without launch and launch. So I actually validated these numbers with Squall's run, which also the video that I posted yesterday. The numbers might not be exactly the same from the video and the one that I'm showing you right now. That's because in the video I did it when FR gauge is less than 80%. So Squall did not get the additional HP damage limit up from S1, S2, EX, and LD from basically from his FE 30. Right? So that requires force gauge above 80%. So if you are entering an FR phase, it's 100%, so there's no concern on whether you will not, get the maximized damage out of Squall. Anyway, this is the calculation that I've done. So I did it for all the characters that will be featuring or will be released in the upcoming month until JP right now, which is until Lock and Struggle. Okay, so basically, I think that's the end of the era, I think, because we haven't get the OP video yet. And they did mention that the next month, which is the next one, should be FE 50. So if it is, then that would mark a new era. So this video is for this current Echo Era. So at number 34, we have Shantoto, followed by Leo, Vincent, Lightning, and Zack. I guess Shantoto kind of have disabled the kit, so they kind of like make her more of a utility character right now. And Leo is actually an off-turn attacker, as in he has a follow-up, right? So if a character attack, then he will follow up. So it's actually best used as a support DPS, so not as a main, which is why it's actually lower, because a lot of characters like Core, Weiss, Leo, Noctis, they do have lower BT phase damage compared to a lot of other DPS, but they do contribute to that. So do not just assume that Leo is a bad character and you will skip him. It's actually not, because he is actually really good in providing additional damage to another character's BT phase, right? So Vincent, more of a utility character, but he actually comes quite late down in Echo Era, so his damage is actually pretty low in my opinion. Then we have Lightning. All consecutive turn character does have lower damage overall, like we have Neon and Tidus, right? So I guess Lightning falls into the same category and she doesn't have that much, but if you utilize her correctly, she can hog the entire FR turn and effectively increasing HP damage bonus and things like that. So it is not bad. If you like her, she is pretty much usable. She can clear fight quite easily as well. So anyway, just in this list, she is at number 31. Then we have Zack at number 30. Do note that for Zack to hit maximized damage for his BT finisher, you need to provide him a really huge support, or just bring Quina, right? So Zack overall does hit hard because compared to other characters, he has 7 turns that do big damage, while the other characters in BT phase, it would be the 6th turn, because BT finisher, we all know the damage is kind of fixed and doesn't really hit as hard. And now at number 29 is Sid Reigns. Yeah, a lot of people might say, wait, Sid Reigns supposed to hit really hard? Well, he actually does, but mostly single target damage. So obviously if you compare to some of the other units that will be coming and does AoE damage against 2 enemies, Sid Reigns will lose out a little. And why is he hitting lower than Tifa? Well, again, similar to Zack's reason, Tifa has a very hard hitting BT finisher, and everyone here is assumed to have Sid Reigns call LDCA so that they can launch. So that kind of being a disadvantage to what Reigns already does. So anyway, at 29 is Reigns. Then we have Cloud at 28. Do note that Cloud is more of a utility character with disable and launch. Then we have Noctis, who is a off-turn attacker as well, something like what I mentioned about Leo. Then we have Tifa. So Tifa's FR hits really hard together with her follow-up attack and as well as the BT. So she's currently at 26. And then we have Kieran at 25th. So Kieran is just released in JP not long ago. So he's actually more of a support character. So at that point, we could say even the support character has damage that rivals the DPS we have right now. So now at number 24 is Squall, and we have Sarah. Okay, this is something to compare. Right now in GL, we have both Squall and Sarah. So does Sarah actually hit harder than Squall? Well, technically, we do not have like a generic FR with 50% HP damage limit up. So if you use Sarah, you will likely use her own FR and she miss out on 50% HP damage limit up, which means her damage is actually lower than Squall's. But with, as we move on, when we have characters that provide 50% HP damage limit up from their FR, then Sarah actually deals more damage than Squall. Anyway, given that 2 of them is in this list, their damage is still pretty relevant if you want to use them somewhere in mid-era to mid to late era, right? So they have good damage. Then we have Weiss. Weiss is mostly an off-turn attacker. So his damage is about 38.3, so that's actually pretty good. I have used this BT phase in JP several times. He doesn't disappointing. He's able to complete the fight just as well as any other character. Okay, so we have at 21 is Braska. One of the reasons Braska is lower in this list because his off-turn attack or his follow-up attack is not included in launch. So after you attack with Braska, it launches then only Jack follow-ups with additional attack. So that is not accounted in launch, so he kind of lose out. While Sarah in that sense does account into launch, right? So Vivi as well doesn't account in launch, but generally actually Vivi hits really hard, so whoever who have him green right now, well, don't get a UW 5-5 and he won't disappoint, okay? It's just that his FR really sucks, so you need a generic FR to support him, but we have Penelo. And if you don't have Penelo, you can use Neon. If you don't have Neon, you can wait for Quina, which is just the banner after Aerith, okay? So in that sense, yeah, Vivi will be a good character to use. Then at 19, we have Monk. So I'm actually really surprised here because in my group, we are discussing like, who is hitting harder? Squall or Sarah? Squall or Sarah? And then we never really talk or compared damage with Monk. But surprisingly, in this early era, Monk is actually the hardest hitting character that we have. Okay, against 2 enemy, of course. Having 2 follow-up total of 8 HP dumps, where 4 is accounted into launch, he really does hit really hard. Okay, so coming off after that is on the 18 is Noelle. Then we have Rosa on 17. Then we have Golbez and Sephiroth. Okay, Golbez and Sephiroth, they have 70% HP damage limit on their BT. So if you are saying Squall have 50% for himself with his BT, Golbez and Sephiroth has 70. So why are they still somewhere in the middle of this list and not higher up? I'm not too sure what the developer is thinking about, but character like Golbez, he is just solid damage, but it seems that character that have solid damage and nothing else kind of fall down in the list. Another example is Twin. They doesn't even make it into the list because it's less than 30 million damage, total damage. But the thing is that they are self-sufficient, so you don't have to rely on the support character's FR for 50% HP damage limit up or a generic condition, because their FR has 50% as well as generic condition, so they are pretty much quite self-sufficient in that sense. So if you do not have a lot of character to team build around, do consider getting them, because it will be easier for you to just press the button and then do whatever that you want. You don't really have to plan too much on deciding on who to bring. But I will kind of be against that, because I definitely support good team building, understanding mechanics of the game, and try to optimize whatever that we are doing. Okay, so anyway, Sephiroth is on 15. He does have a very good utility to delay the enemy by resetting their brave and breaking them every turn. So yeah, so that's that. So at number 14 is Yuri, and then we have Queen. Queen is actually a really good unit because he boosts EX and HP plus damage by 50%. And there's also Ursula who also does the same. So if you actually like bring them with character that utilize HP plus, like Yuffie and Locke in this slide, they will actually deal a lot of damage. So it's on top of supporting the DPS, they themselves actually deals a lot of damage as well. So Queen here is at number 13, Locke is at number 12. Locke is just released like few days ago in JP, and he's actually more of a single target DPS. So against 2 enemies, his damage definitely lose out compared to others, but do note that his HP plus deals 16 HP dumps, which is actually the most in the game right now. And as demonstrated by Japanese content creator, he is also the only character now that can hit over 5 million damage per HP dumps with 999% HP damage bonus. Okay, so at number 11 is Jill. she actually hit really hard. Again, a disadvantage is that her follow-up is after her attack, so it doesn't take into account launch damage. Then we have Yuffie. Yuffie technically becomes another Rinoa because she gets a HP plus and 9 HP dumps AoE. So that is the same as Rinoa. So if you like that form of gameplay, do pick up Yuffie. But the only problem that I think is that she uses a throw, and not a lot of people have ultimate weapon for throw. And at number 9 is Baltier. So Baltier is a unit that we will be getting soon in GL. So he hit really hard. He has a follow-up with 4 HP dumps AoE, so that's total of 8. And he has tremendous utility. He's basically dispelled by stealing buff, and then he cleanses, and then he inflict a debuff, I can't remember the name, some Gorgon debuff where it blocks enemies' attack. So it's something like Reno's Pyramid. And his damage is comparable even to current JP DPS unit. So he is a very good unit, but again the problem is gun ultimate weapon. Probably not a lot of people have that. But I would definitely go for Baltier. Another weakness is his FR is not an easy FR to use. So again, you need to at least have another character that has a generic FR in order to support him. Okay, so next after Baltier is Rex. So this nobody, well, it's Van's brother that dies in several minutes at the start of the game, is a tank that has crazy amount of damage. And the thing is that his preemptive attack is not really preemptive attack, it's something like snow. Like at the start of his turn, he will do an attack. So that will not be accounted in launch, but still he does a lot of damage to be out damaging so many characters, right? So it's 4 HP dumps AoE but triggered twice, so that's easily 16 HP dumps total. And his own ability usually has about 4 HP dumps as well. So during his turn, there's like 24 HP dumps total. But the thing is that when you enter, like when you are going to enter his BT phase, then the first 2 preemptive attack will not be accounted into BT phase, right? So if it does, he actually deals even more damage, but it doesn't. But anyway, a strong character, if you really like him. For me, I will skip because not a big fan of Rex, and there are so many other DPS characters coming, so I will just wait it out. Then we have Arania. Arania, basically a lot of people say she's an upgraded Reigns because both of them now launches every attack. Arania has a follow-up after the end of the launch, which is also 7 HP dump, just like Reigns. The thing is that she doesn't have added HP damage limit up for launch. She practically just HP damage limit up everything, so she hits really hard. But utility wise, they are different. Once Reigns turn manipulate, while Arania delays and break, and she get consecutive turn as well. So it's rather easy to play her that way. I really like to use her right now in JP, and I really recommend her to a lot of players. And another surprising one here at number 6 is Lena. Well, I didn't expect her to be here in the list up so high. In JP, I kind of like skip her. I got her FR, but I did not get her BT. But with her BT, she gets 4 HP dumps, AoE follow-up, and her attack HP plus is 6 full damage AoE attack, so that's 12 plus 8, so that's 20. So every turn she can actually do 20 HP dumps, which makes her damage skyrocket up to be at number 6, and even out damaging Arania. And since now I have a 5/5 bow for Sarah, so I guess Lena will be the next one to be wielding that bow. So I am currently looking forward to getting Lena in my main account. Anyway, the next character after that is Fusoya. We recently just get him in JP, and He has some crazily good disabling, and his damage is 48 million total, so he is currently at number 5. So at number 4 is Strago. So Strago is just released. With his BT, he now triple casts instead of double casts, right? So it triples his damage and it makes him a really strong character overall. Most of his attack doesn't get that much rework, but with triple cast it does really hit. Like his EX and LD, it hits 12 HP dumps against 2 enemies, that's 24. But at least that's what we are expecting on a DPS unit that is just released. And at number 3 is Anna Crow. My calculation for Anna Crow is a little bit odd because with her BT and everything, she actually hits the hard cap. Okay, when her robot come out, she hits 999,100,000 damage per HP dump. Okay, so even if you give her more HP damage limit up, she will cap at 999 damage, 999,100,000 damage. Okay, so understanding that, when I calculate her, I just maximize out her HP damage limit, so she's hitting as hard as possible. And her BT phase, if you go by the normal convention, like you're gonna use EX once, LD once, and then S1 and S2, she doesn't do that much, okay? But she has the condition where she automatically recharge her EX during BT phase. So if you are lucky enough, you can have like EX, 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 EX for all 6 turns. But that is pretty much if you are really lucky. So most of the time, probably not. So but I did assume that she at least get 2. So her BT phase is calculated with 3 EX, 1 LD, and 2 S2. Okay, her FR actually hits. It's not good, so don't use her FR in her BT phase. So with that, she adds up to 52.2 million and landing her place at number 3. And at number 2, probably number 2, you know, I'm sure everyone knows who is at number 1, so it's not even surprising at all. But number 2 here is Reno. Reno now with his BT gain a new HP plus attack, and it has 11 HP dumps. Right? Yuffie has 9, Reno has 9, he has 11 AoE, and hence he hit really hard. But it's not easy to cap on each HP down for his HP plus, so you do need a bunch of support or using Crystal Passive. In JP right now we have Crystal Passive with new function. I will talk about that maybe in a month or 2 when GL are getting closer to it. But anyway, do note that there are some new game system that allowed us to kind of like manipulate or adjust our character according to the passive. Okay, so on top of that, Reno is just not a DPS if you consider what he's doing, but he is basically a utility character with that prevent the boss from dealing damage. And he's also very good for off turn, because every time you use HP plus, he delays the entire party, so giving the chance for enemy to attack and trigger more off turn counter. So he's a very good character. BT phase, off turn, whatever you want, Reno can provide that. And at number 1 is none other than Astos, and look at his damage, 73.6, and the previous one is 52. So he is definitely insane. Again, similar to Anna Crow, I calculated his damage to be kept at 999,000 because he's just break the HP damage limit cap, which nobody in DFFOO can do that except him. And he comes somewhere in mid Echo Era, so he kind of like peak the DPS total damage that a DPS can do, and after that nobody else come into comparison with whatever they're doing. His only weakness is if you're fighting against an enemy with Sep. So Sep can actually bring his max Brave or his Brave down to below the HP damage limit cap, and then he will be dealing normal damage, not anymore at 900,000. So do keep that in mind. He does have a weakness, but most of the time now in JP, I do not come across a lot of enemy that have Sep. Okay, so whatever it is, he is really strong. Do pull for him, especially if you're a new player and you need a very strong DPS to help carry you through this era. And here I presented basically everyone's DPS on the character that I have just mentioned based on the time that they are released. So like Vivi and Tifa, then after that we have Sarah, Squall, and then all the way until Struggle. So you can see from the entire chart, Astos is an outlier. The rest kind of like you can see a trend like it's slowly increasing, even though there's up and down, but generally it's increasing. But anyway, if you look over here, I would say early era, the top damage dealer is actually Mok, and in early to mid era is actually Rex, and Baltier come very close to Rex. Okay, in mid era is Astos, and nobody can compare to him. So Jill, who comes after Astos, a new character after Astos, does seems a little bit weak in comparison, but she's actually still a pretty good character. And then we have Lena, who is the top in, I would say, mid to late era. Then we have Reno, and then Struggle, right? So if you are looking out for some of the hardest hitting characters, then you can look into this chart and pick some of it. So if the others that you probably will not use that as much and you don't need their utility, then you can consider skipping. But most of the characters now does come with great utility with their BT. And again, I do advise you to plan your roster or your pool based on utility rather than just support. Sorry, I mean DPS. And here is another chart. It's not the same as the one before. This is without launch. So why do I bring this up? Because character like Braska or Jill, they actually have, like I mentioned, their follow-up doesn't get affected by launch because it happens after launch. So if you're considering a BT phase without launch, they do stand out more. So you can see Rex also stand out more than Baltier in that sense. Jill and Aranya and Reigns also stand out more because they have, yeah, they launch, right? So you cannot unlaunch them. So when you compare it in that sense, they do pretty high damage. Okay, so anyway, I hope that you enjoyed the video on this compilation of DPS damage. And yeah, so enjoy DFFOO and thank you very much for watching this video. Goodbye.